What's up, party animals? My name is Kezi, and Furlandia was like a month ago now. I have been so busy with a lot, actually. So I talked about, I've been talking about how much events I've been doing, things like fur meets and raves. I recently got to take my own rig out and do my own thing, which looks fantastic. And everything, it's just been a lot. And just barely, I've been able to get my bedroom studio cleaned up enough so that I can actually sit in here and film. I had to replace a bunch of stuff. You can't really see it because it's dark. But I have been selling equipment and doing trades and doing a lot of stuff for like a whole kind of restructuring of my life. And I've even got a new Kigu. Same maker as before, Patron Industries, absolutely killing it every time. Beautiful work. The old one needed to be retired, and thanks to the generosity of you guys, I was able to get a new one right before the tariffs hit too, since Patron is a Canadian maker. So, moving on to the topic at hand though, furry cons, the fandom, it's getting too big. And so a couple things have kind of led me there. So I didn't really vlog Furlandia. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out this year. And there's a couple of reasons as to why. And the primary one is I just wasn't in fursuit a lot because, well, I couldn't. Let me back up a bit and explain the convention itself. So Furlandia was on a 10-year contract with its hotel. And then this last year was its 10th year, so that the contract was finally able to expire. But as of like 2023 to this year, it has seen exponential growth, absolutely crazy numbers. And it has outgrown the hotel. Last year, it was already like pushing that limit of like, okay, yeah, the hotel's pretty full. Like it was that like perfect amount. Like any more and it would have been too full. Any less and it would have felt like, like any other small con. And so it was like that. You could still move around. Lines weren't too horrible and stuff like that. And then there was like plenty to do, lots of panels. But this year, too much. Way too much. Way too many people. I think the attendance numbers hit over 2.5 thousand attendees. And that's just the people who registered. And so the main events hotel, which is not a big place, mind you, was absolutely filled to the brim. Definitely too many people. And it was awful, actually. I really love the con. The chair and other staff have done a great job cleaning up after the mess Rainforest had left behind for it to deal with. And so now Furlandia is still a con I would highly recommend. But this last year, it just had too many people. Too many furries. And so the reason I didn't get in fursuit a lot was because anytime I would go down in fursuit, I would find myself being stopped every 5 minutes for photos, which is fine. I love the attention. However, in an environment where there's way too many people, the crowds are too thick, every single time I would be stopped for photos, it would be like a whole session where one person would have stopped me and then other people would have come around and also taken photos as well. And so with how cramped the space was and how not very well optimized the layout is, whenever I would be stopped, no matter where, anytime I would get stopped, I would be blocking through traffic. And that becomes not only just I'm in people's way and so I feel bad, it's also a safety hazard and also just people have places they need to go. I want to allow them to do that. And when I'm getting stopped for 5 or even 10 minutes just taking photos, there ends up being a line of 10 or 15 people who want to get by but can't. And so that put so much pressure on me to not that put too much on me for me to feel comfortable being in fursuit. And even outside of, the photos, I just felt too big. Now, my fursuit is fairly slim on me. I don't have like a more for less fursuit where I'm a towering beast. However, I am blind and stuff like that, so I'm a little more bumbly than I am outside of my fursuit. And so I just felt too big even walking around, just trying to get by the people who were standing in line. Because there were 3 lines going, and they all converged in the main lobby. There was the main events line, so people getting ready for whatever was happening in the main events area. That was long, so long it went to the lobby. There was the artist alley line that, again, so long it went to the lobby. And then the registration line, again, so long it went into the lobby. And so all these 3 branches of the building, because there's like 3 main arteries, I guess, they all converged right in the middle. And so there was just this massive, dense crowd of just people standing around. And the fun that I had at the con was basically this route where you start in the entrance to the lobby with the big open doors and you walk in. And then you take a right into the main events area where there was main events and then this kind of hangout drawing area. There wasn't a lot going on. It was mostly just chairs and stuff like that set up. So you take a right, go down that hallway in that little hangout and art area. And then you go outside of there, and then there's the parking lot and just a little large sidewalk area to sit around and hang out at too. And then you loop. And it's just this one circle that you could just do over and over and over and over. And that's what I did for 3 straight days. And it was fun because, every loop you'd meet someone new or something like that, and it would be fun. But long story short, the fandom's getting too big because here's the other thing. AnthroCon. And I hope I can probably try putting this earlier in the video or chopping it up in some way, because AnthroCon is the latest in furry news, where they have taken, so this what I'm wearing right here, I can't go into the AnthroCon fursuit parade because, ooh, you can see my skin, oh my god. And it's dead of summer, so people are already dying of heat. So, yeah, that's pretty weird. And now I know a few people who are on staff at AnthroCon, and they've said it's to reduce the head count because, just like I've been saying, there's too many furries. And you can't do something limiting registration or something like that. There's a lot of things you can't do, with the con itself being so cheap as well. It's not like you can raise the price to $300 a ticket because then everyone will hate you. And so there's no right way to actually do this correctly because the fandom has seen an absolute explosion of newcomers, new furries, and people who want to go to conventions, who want to be outgoing and that sort of thing. And while the internet can handle billions of people, literally, conventions, less so. There's an upper limit to how many people you can fit in a single space in a building before it ends up becoming so crowded that all the enjoyment is gone. And so that's why I've been focusing on smaller events. That's why I was for a while going to those house parties. That's why I'm doing my own fur meets, because when you go to these massive events, there's so much going on and there's so many people, everything just gets drowned out in the noise. When I was at Furlandia, the first Furlandia I went to was so quiet. I basically met everyone there by the end of the con. I had met every single person who had been there by the end of the con. And that was, while it was really kind of cringe in a weird way, because it was DashCon vibes where it's really empty and ooh. But even then, I still made amazing friends. I met amazing people. And so it's not like the con itself was anything terrible. It was just really empty. But with that came the ability to connect with people in a better way. And now I'm seeing these massive events, happening in my own city when Furlandia, my little local con in little old Portland, is actually rivaling events like BLFC for its attendance numbers. Literally, I think we're just 1,000 short to actually beat out BLFC. And I really see that happening within the next couple years, since BLFC's kind of stagnated due to its timing. But that's the thing, right? Is, now that there's this exponential growth and there's more of a reason to go to Furlandia instead of all these other cons, because A&W just kind of shot themselves in the foot, and a lot of other problems have been coming out from A&W. More people are going to come down to Portland to go to our convention because it also just moved to the Hyatt Regency, where AnthroCon and MFF also have already been taking place. And so you get these big cons and you get these big events, and then you go to them and you're lost in the noise, and there's so many people and there's too many crowds. And, a friend of mine went with me, and because of the crowds, it was just a mess of anxiety, because there's this pressure to, not linger, where you have to go. You have to know what you're doing. And then there's also just so little to do. It's just... It's a lot. And I don't want to say, oh, well, I'm a hipster. I know that the fandom, I remember when the fandom was tiny and it was way better back then, because that's not necessarily the case. The growth of the furry fandom has not been a bad thing. But I think that we're not handling its growth very well, because I have been to bigger events. I have been to events that have absolutely easily outpaced the amount of attendees to the world's biggest furry conventions. Music festivals is the prime example here. And while they have a massive amount of more space to interact, they're also handled in a fundamentally different way, where a music festival is staffed with people on payroll, where the events are actually managed by teams of professionals instead of volunteers who, just want to have a good time. And so when you get these volunteer roles and you have these super, super low ticket prices to the point where, it doesn't really cover the cost of anything, especially the time and effort of the people actually making it happen, you find that you hit this brick wall of what's actually possible without pouring more money into something. When AnthroCon is, $70 to go, but Base Canyon is $370 to go, you start to wonder, okay, it's kind of obvious why AnthroCon is struggling, because they don't have the resources to handle an event of that size. And everybody's going to be like, well, I don't want to pay $400 to go to a furry con. Well, duh, but also, you kind of already are. When the hotel prices and the flight costs and everything is so high, that's what's stopping me from going to MFF again, or even BLFC, is the hotel costs and those kinds of things are so high. And I'm not saying, jump from 70 to 1,000. I'm saying pay your people and make sure that you can actually support the people who actually can go. Yes, it's expensive to go to furry cons, and it really sucks if you can't go, but with the amount that the furry fandom is expanding and its rapid growth, not everyone gets to go to a music festival either, even if they're the biggest music lover on the face of the planet. But there's tons and tons of smaller, of cheaper, of, you can go to clubs, you can go to, Renegades, you can go to all sorts of these smaller things. You don't have to go to Tomorrowland to call yourself a music lover, just in the same way that you don't have to go to AnthroCon to express yourself as a furry. You can go to these smaller events. You know, in Portland, we have Slabtown Scamper, which is like this micro furry con. And that's probably one of my favorite events of all time, just because of how nice it is just to see everyone and hang out for just a little bit of time. And then there's events like Get Out the Float that are, while, you know, they're a whole con, but they're so much smaller that when you go to Get Out the Float, you know, there's not this sense of absolute overwhelm where you're just like, I can't take it anymore. You know, the people who are there are your people. They went there too, instead of you're just there also, if that makes any sense. And so you gotta seek out these smaller and smaller events. Do your own fur meets. Do your own stuff. One of the things that I'm doing is there's a thing in Portland called Tabor Dance. And I am actually hosting fur meets kind of alongside it. It's an outdoor event in a park, so it's very easy to just bring my fursuit as well, since there's no there's nothing really stopping. It's a public park. You can just go there. And so I'm inviting fursuiters and other furries to just come and show up to this event, but kind of having our own little area of furries to join in on the fun. And so I implore you guys to do that too. Find local events in your city and invite a whole furry group to go with you. Because a lot of times, furries are looking for stuff to do anyway. And so if there's like a random example, let's say there's an air show and you want to see the cool jets flying around, you know, go invite a whole bunch of furries in your community and say, hey, I'm going to be here at these hours. If you want to go and have some people to be with, come with me at these times, and post in your local city chats. Because I think that with the absolute explosion of the furry population, if you will, there's going to be a need for a lot more smaller, more niche events that are happening local to you, because not everyone has the money to do something like AnthroCon. So yeah, that's my rant. It's kind of all over the place. Hope it made sense. Sorry again for the big delay in videos. And again, thank you guys so much for helping me get this new Kigu. It's so much fresher. It makes me feel a lot better now that it's not full of burn holes and dirt and icky. I'm going to keep this one very pretty. And thanks again to my patrons. Thank you everyone for supporting me by watching this video. And until next time, thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye. Thank you again to the patrons scrolling on the screen right now. You guys have been a lifesaver over the past few months. Things have been super stressful, but y'all have come through and helped me immensely. So I appreciate it. And if you want to help, please check me out on the links below. Bye-bye.